which is the 30th chapter, verses 41, says, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعد الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون. Which the translation is, corruption has flourished, or calamities has appeared. The facade. في البر والبحر, on land and sea, بما كسبت أيدي الناس, as a result of people's action. And he, God, will make them taste the consequences of some of their own actions, so that so they may return to God. So this has been kind of one of the more interesting verses of Quran. This is, I'm always wondering, what is this facade? What does it talk about? You know, and how does, you know, other verses of Quran kind of interprets and explain this verse of Quran? So I did a little search and studied, you know, look at the, you know, Tafsir al-Mizan and a couple other Quranic exegeses, and there are, of course, the facade, several different interpretations what this facade means, or this is calamity. Some say this is any type of calamity, you know, being from wars, you know, or like terrorist action, or any type of death, or any type of calamities that caused by men, by the people. Or also it could be the calamities that are in what we see, you know, in natural, you know, causes such as earthquakes or floods and so on. Again, some Mufassirin, they say because of what, you know, what sort of actions that humans have taken, disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but because we believe this world is not all actions have consequences, so this is kind of indirectly a reaction of what we have done, because the verse just before this talks about believing in God and not taking shirk in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the Surah Al-Rum, the verse just before that, it says, Allahu alladhi khalaqakum thumma razaqakum thumma yumitukum thumma yuhyikum hal min shurakaikum man yaf'al min dhalikum min shay subhanahu wa ta'ala amma yushrikun. Said it is God who created you and provided to you, who will cause you to die and then give you life again. Which of your partners can do any one of these things? Glory be to God and exalted he above the partners they attribute to him. So as they say, the shirk, you know, shirk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, may cause some of these fasad. Now let's look in Al-Mizan. Says there is another verse which kind of is the flip side of this verse, which maybe explains the facade, what this facade means better. And this is in Surah Al-A'raf, verses 96. Actually, there are several verses kind of interrelated, but I'm just reciting verses 96, which says, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَىٰ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقُوا لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبُوا فَأَخْذَنَاهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. If the people of those towns or societies had believed, amanu wattaqu, have they believed and been mindful of God, conscious of God, we would have showered them. لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. We have been literally opened the door of barakah. Barakah means the blessings. You have opened the door, or have showered the doors of blessing مِنَ السَّمَاءِ from the sky and earth. وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبُوا, but they rejected the truth. They rejected God. فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. So we punished them for their misdeeds. So kind of explains. The other one talks about, the people are creating mischiefs on earth because what they have done. And then this one says, God would have given them the barakah, the blessings, if they had, been believers, and also not just believers, but wattabu, have been mindful of God. Their actions would be mindful of God. And then there's another verse in Quran which discusses, talks about, in Qasas, Surah Al-Qasas, talks about the story of Qarun. Qarun is kind of example of a super rich person in Quran, which is one of the followers of Moses. And then in this verses, I'm not going to read, the Arabic, just the translation in English. He said, Qarun was one of the Moses people, but he oppressed them. فَبَغَى عَلَيْهِمْ, oppressed the people. We had give him such a treasures, and it was so rich, that even their keys would have weighed down a whole company of a strong man. So the key to the treasure was so heavy. He had so many different rooms of treasure. Even the keychain was so heavy that even men could not pick them up. It was so rich. His people said to him, قَالَ لَهُ قَوْمُهُ لَا تَفْرَحْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْفَرِحِينَ. Do not gloat. God does not like people who gloat. Okay. Then the next verse says, seek the life to come by means of God has granted you, but do not neglect your rightful share in this world. That means, spend your money for Dar al-Akhirah, for the hereafter. But of course, you have to make a living here. You have to live here. So take your fair share. وَأَحْسَنَ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهَ إِلَيْكَ. And do good to others as God have done good to you. وَلَا تَبْقَ الْفَسَادِ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And do not make mischief, fasad again, on earth. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. And God does not like those who are mufsid. So to me, what my take, and Allah Alam, is this fasad is in somewhat direct reaction to what we have done, a little more tangible. For example, if you are, driving and, we have and then it's also societal. And we have a crash or somebody hits us, you say, okay, this is fasad, because I did something wrong. I did not pray, and somehow I got into accident. So this is not really a fasad. It is a more societal, when there is a huge discrepancy between rich and poor, or when there are the actions that people have taken that it's very visible. It's very visible that facade, or corruption that you see is very visible. And also one of the things is the ni'mah, or the blessing of God, or the barakah is taken away. It's taken away somehow. So all this kind of, to me, basically says that where we are right now in the state of the world, all the conference you see in Scotland and trying to combat global warming is definitely, this is a facade fil bar al-bahr. It's very visible, a visible corruption on Earth, total Earth. And because and doesn't say, ideal kafirin, something that kafirin did or mu'minin did, it's a nas, it's very general. Something very general. So what the people have done, all of them has brought us this facade to the earth. And one of the main reason is, which Qarun exemplifies, is that greed, is wanting to have more of everything. So in today's society, especially past 300 years from the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and then consumer society, we want to have more. We want to have more shinier things, and all of us are kind of engulfed in this thing. And all of that has kind of brought these calamities to the earth that we are, now we have been making for 300 years. Now we are trying to find a solution for it. Now, maybe the solution, whatever we're doing, it might be already a little bit late, but what actions we can take, it may slow it down, or it may prevent for getting worse. And then the interesting thing of this problem is these calamities are not just impacting us, as I will talk about in the second part of my khutbah. It will impact our grandchildren and our grandchildren to come. صلى على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As I was talking, I don't know, it was maybe 2.5 months ago, about the global warming issue and the consumerism and the problems that we face, which really was because of the israf and tabzir. I want to talk a little bit more about, and then I talked a little bit about what we can do individually. And today I want to talk a little bit more. First of all, what are the greenhouse gases that we hear all the time, and what can we do? Because right now it seems, the news that I hear today, I was reading what happened in Glasgow, in Scotland, is basically a failure. First of all, the big players didn't show up, like China. They did not send the high delegate, and whatever agreement they're reaching, they are not to the level that it should be. And also, a lot of it has nothing to do with the government. A more effective way is to do it more, in grassroots level, individually, and in the communities, rather than wait for government to make a decision. And because this is a problem that each of us are part of the problem, and each of us, we can contribute a little, and all those little things will lead up to big change. So first of all, greenhouses, gases, well, there are 4 or 5 major ones. One is water vapor. Water vapor is everywhere, of course. You cannot get rid of that, and that's there. And first of all, greenhouse gases are good. Some of it is good. Without it, you will not live. Without greenhouse gases, the Earth would be like Mars, would be very cold and inhabitable. So some of it, some level of it, we must have. and that's around 200, 250 parts per million. This is the range they say should have. And basically that really what makes life possible. Before that, either was before, like a million years ago, before that, it was going back and forth between a lot and more or less. And that we had the atmosphere in such a way that human life was impossible. So really past in a million years or so, where that has kind of stayed in that 200, 250 parts per million range. So therefore, not all of it is bad. Some of it is good. But now, since Industrial Revolution, which has started burning oil and gas and coal, the concentration have been rising much faster than it should be. So the five N's are water vapor, the CO2, the methane, and what was the last one is nitrous oxide or nitrous oxide. Yeah, nitrous oxide. And also fluorinated gases. The carbon dioxide has been there as natural, and it's the worst thing because it comes off of burning fossil fuel. The methane, again, has been there, but again, the main reason that the methane is increasing again is because of fossil fuel, like gases, natural gas, and exploration, and also some of it because of the livestock, especially the cows. And then nitrous oxide, again, that's again because of industrial gas emissions. And fluorinated gases, these are the one that made in factories, lab factories for refrigeration. So carbon dioxide and all of them remain in the atmosphere at different rates. The carbon dioxide, which is the most important, which we hear about a lot more, the problem is stays very long time in the atmosphere. So they say 40% remains after 100 years, 20% after 1,000 years, and 10% will remain there even after 10,000 years. So there's many generations. What we create today, what I created today driving here, will stay up there for many, many, many generations. So the methane per pound is worse than carbon dioxide, but every pound of methane is like 25 times more worse than carbon dioxide, but it doesn't stay there very long. So they say after 100 years, a lot of it are gone. And then nitrous oxide, again, that's a smaller percentage, but again, it's pretty bad. And then fluorinated gases, that will stay there forever. I mean, that's almost, it never gets destroyed. This is very bad. So where do they come from in our daily life? Well, in terms of what industries create the most, of course, electricity and heat production, those count for like a huge part of it. The industry, agriculture, and also the buildings. In terms of emissions that they talk about, which country produces the most, there are two different numbers. One, how much a country has produced over the lifetime. Okay, for example, since the beginning of Industrial Revolution, which country has produced so it stays up there? The worst by far is the United States, and then Europe, and then other countries. But the question is, so the United States has created the most, that's put up there, also industrial Europe, and then other countries. But now, right now, who's producing the most of the CO2 and the gases? By far is right now China. China is worse right now, but then United States, India, European countries, and a couple of Muslim countries. Iran is really high up there, is like 8th worst right now producer of gas is also Saudi Arabia. So this is in general, but how about how individually, how much we are producing, what's the distribution of that? They say 28% on the average of our carbon emission comes from when we drive or transport or fly, go places. So transportation is by far the worst. Then 26% are the stuff that we buy, our clothing or whatever junk we buy, new TV or whatever TV, all the junk that we buy, that's like 26%. 15% is the energy that we do energy at our home, to warm up our houses, TV and electricity and so on. 17%, sorry, 17% for heating and cooling our houses, 15% for other energy at home, for washing machine, dryers, TV, and so on, and 14% of the food, for the food. The food we buy has energy in it, has somebody trucked it, somebody formed it, and so on. So all of that adds up to a lot of CO2. So what are, they say, the first steps that we can do individually to reduce our carbon footprint? First of all, one way is to do it is to measure how much carbon footprint you have. So there are many good calculators out there who can do that. You can spend like half an hour or something like that to do it at home. The best one I found is what they call Cool Climate. Cool, COOL climate.org, and this is from UC Berkeley. So UC Berkeley has come up with this calculator, which you can, say how many miles you drive, what kind of car you have in terms of miles per gallon, how much stuff you buy, and so on, and go detail, and it tells you, okay, this is how much carbon you're burning or you're producing, and then it tells you, okay, now compared to other people, are you doing worse or not? And then what steps you can take to reduce them. So first, take account of what you're doing. Then the second thing is switch. They say switch to renewable. If you have some of us, for example, at my home, I can buy energy either from PG&E or from pay a little bit more and buy from somebody who provides you renewable energy, for example, from solar or from hydroelectric. So that's one way to do it. The other thing is whenever you do buy, third is really minimizing your driving. Driving is like, it's probably like the worst. The less you drive or think about if you want to go, don't go drive to buy one thing, come home, then think about something else and go buy it and come back. Like 3 trips to buy, 3 different items. Think strategically. How can I, maybe I can wait another day and do all these trips, go to Safeway, go to CVS and some other store, all the same trip. Even better if your CVS or Safeway is close by, walk there or bike there rather than drive there. United States, unfortunately, the public transportation is horrible. Other places you can just, many cities just hop on the bus or go metro, do your shopping and come back. But here, many places there are no public transportation or they're very inefficient. So, but if the store is closed, you can bike there or walk there and do it. Or, as I said, do strategic planning. Do all these things at once. And then the other thing is when you buy big ticket items, like if you want to buy a washer, dryer, a car, or anything like that, pay a little bit more, but buy the most energy efficient, equipment or whatever, or refrigerator or whatever you're trying to buy. Also minimizing purchase of new products. I mean, there are a lot of, used to be a stigma buying used. Now buying used is nothing wrong with shaming buying used stuff, as much as you can. eBay is a lot of used stuff, you can, nothing, doesn't mean that everything has to be buy brand new or something that is maybe slightly used. So that also reduces your footprint. In terms of eating, that also has a big impact. Meat, being lamb or being beef, that has like the worst, largest carbon footprint. And also, from Islamic point of view, eating a lot of meat is not good. So I'm not saying to all of us we should be vegetarian or vegan, but we can reduce rather than having hamburger every day or cheeseburger every other day. Have it once a week. So this way you cut down, and also most of dairies pre-bad. So all plant-based food. Also chicken is very low compared to like beef or lamb. So all the number one would be kind of go through vegetarian, more plant-based food, but reduce your meat consumption and also try to things that are mostly there's no reason I should have like watermelon in the middle of the winter, because the watermelon in the winter, where does it come from? They have to ship it from, let's say, I don't know, Chile or Mexico or someplace far away, truck it in, so I can have watermelon in the middle of the winter. There's no reason. I can have orange coming from California or apple from California, Washington. So those kind of things, all of those little things help. And there are many other steps that you can take. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there are many steps. Reducing water consumption. Not just because saving water, even if you have a lot of rain, so we are not drought, still saving water will help the environment. Why? Because a large percentage of energy goes into moving the water to your home. Water does not just come by gravity to your home. Most of the time it has to be pumped. It is pumped to storage places, or sometimes pumped directly to your house, or sometimes pumped to a storage place, and that from storage place goes to your home. So by reducing your water consumption, you're also reducing the energy that utilities have to pump the water. So all those little things help us to reduce our energy and help us to live in more sustainable world, and hopefully will reduce our impact for our children, grandchildren, and grandchildren. The other thing is, just want to mention the passing away of Professor Mahmoud Ayub. I don't know if you guys know him. He was a very prominent scholar, came here to the center, spoke several times in the past. In the past several years, he wasn't able to speak a lot of places because he had Parkinson's disease and also Alzheimer toward the end of life. He was a blind scholar, that who got his PhD from Harvard University. He done a lot of very important work in intrafaith and also Islam-Christian relationship. He has written many important books. He passed away last Saturday in Montreal, Canada, and he was buried on Monday there. In 1990s, he supervised a group project which translated Al-Mizan, Tafsir Al-Mizan, to English. He didn't finish that work, but he did part of that work. And most importantly, he was he established the first studies chair at which before that there was none in the United States, at Hartford Seminary. That's now it's called Hartford University for International Peace. He established that a few years ago over there in Hartford. Anyway, he was I always remember him always smiling, and he was very generous with his time and very open and he was first-rate scholar, especially in history, in exegesis, tafsir of Allah, exegesis of Quran, and also in intrafaith and interfaith relationship. So together we recite Surah Fatiha for him. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب صل على محمد وآل محمد.